Welcome to Greenhouse Grower to Grower, the podcast where we're shaping the future of floriculture one conversation at a time. We talk with the growers, leaders, and innovators shaping tomorrow's greenhouse industry today. From market trends, next generation plants, and innovative production, to the challenges and breakthroughs redefining what it means to grow. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower. Let's dig into what's next together. Earlier this month, 3 longtime floriculture industry operations joined forces to launch WorryFree Plants, a portfolio of plants designed exclusively for independent garden centers. This new entity was formed to provide a bridge between world-class plant breeders and independent plant retailers. In this episode, I talked to Mark Sellew, president of Pride's Corner Farms, Ed Overdevest, president of Overdevest Nurseries, and Tom Demaline, president of Willoway Nurseries, about the benefits WorryFree Plants brings to growers, garden retailers, and consumers, and how plants for the program are selected. Here's our conversation. Before we jump into the real part of the conversation here, I just want to get a bit of background for those who are listening to this on each of your companies. So I'll start with you, Tom, and Willoway. Just give an overview who Willoway is, some of the main crops you grow, and who your primary customer base is.
All right. Yeah. Willoway, we're located in Northern Ohio, and we supply primarily landscape contractors and independent garden centers throughout the Midwest. Grow a pretty wide selection of plant material of both color, perennials, flowers, trees, and shrubs. So cover all the bases, and always looking for ways to evolve and meet our customers' needs.
Okay. Ed, what about you and Overdevest?
Oh, well, I'm second generation. Our company goes back 75 years. Been at it for a bit, but we try to keep a new mind on everything along with that. But our main market is independent garden centers. In fact, it's the 99% of our market. We do a little bit with distributors, but otherwise we're entirely focused with IGCs. Much like Mark and Tom, handling a wide variety of product, over 2,000 varieties of, shrubs, perennials, trees, ornamental grasses, edibles, you name it. Focusing mainly on color, be it flowers, be it foliage color, foliage interest, etc.
Okay. And Mark, what about you and Pride's Corner?
Wow, I mean, they stole all my thunder here. So, I guess I would just add that we're a regional nursery, and as a regional nursery, we focus on frequent deliveries with our customers. So we've invested in online ordering and carts, and we're trying to meet our customer where they really need to be met with their
Sure.
labor issues, and that has served us and in Willoway and Overdevest. Or we work very well and collaborate on helping each other with those initiatives to help us and our nursery stay more relevant in the marketplace.
Okay. Well, and speaking of that collaboration, I want to jump right into it. And as we talk through this, any of you guys could jump in at any time, really. But I want to start with the formation of WorryFree Plants and kind of talk about why you all came together to form this new entity.
So, well, we can all probably add some perspective there, but synergy, which is basically the foundational collaboration, started a number of years ago, um, to better trial and introduce new plant genetics, and it evolved to considerable focus on best practices and collaboration,
Okay.
practice development for better serving our customers and ultimately the consumer. And as time went on, Worry Free was sort of like a spin-off of that. With that came the focus on new variety testing, new variety development, and marketing purposes. And Synergy continues on with the focus primarily on best practice collaboration.
Okay. Mark or Tom, any thoughts on that?
We
Well,
believe.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Tom. Please go
Well, I
ahead.
just we've seen the need in the marketplace to help support the independent garden centers with basically plants that were more than pretty. We're looking for plants with a purpose, and how can we help both the consumers and the garden center sell more plants and solve problems in the landscape? And just thought that we the three of us who thought had similar thoughts and similar approaches to the marketplace, and uh, that's why just the three of us are moving forward with the worry free product.
Okay.
What excites us about Worry Free, Brian, is that we are uh, have a message and a brand that's going to, similar to what Tom said, deal with the multiple problems that the gardener has with plants: invasiveness, deer browsing, rabbit browsing. And so we have been very vigilant in trying to find those plants that are going to truly be worry free. And
Mm.
we're very excited that we have been able to curate a list that we feel will make a difference with that gardener out there and help the only the independent garden center will be offered worry free and give
Okay.
them a competitive advantage as well.
So the development of that list, how did that come about then? I mean, how did you collectively decide, okay, these are are the plants that we really want to target through this?
It
Uh,
kind of like a lot of things in life, it goes step by step.
Sure.
And, with our earlier collaborations with plant trialings, we had the opportunity to collaborate, work with the Yukon, who Dr. Mark Brand was introducing sterile barberries. And knowing that that was becoming an increasing concern with consumers and in particular with regulatory agencies, that was kind of a step into the problem solving aspect of things. And what started with the small collection of barberries has grown into other non-invasive plants, but also after that, plants that address other problems. So step by step, it's kind of expanded in terms of the realm, and now we're taking it additional steps further.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's important, and this was part of our thinking when we first set out on this journey was, and for to make an impact in the marketplace, you need to have a brand to support that. Just another pretty plant in a black pot. It's really hard to make
yeah.
any kind of movement in the marketplace for the consumer to recognize it, for the retailer to recognize it. So that's what we had to dress it up, put the brand on it, and get that
Sure.
brand speak our message. Without it, it's just another plant. So we strongly believe in all the brands, and all of us participate in them. But we felt there was a niche for this independent garden center, and the consumer to help solve a problem for them.
Okay. Okay. How will that branding process eventually take shape then? I mean, are you working with the retailers to like, they're going to have like a label for worry free that they can use, or how does that tie back to either of you guys at all? Or
We're
We have done all the classic brand dress that will really make this brand stand out in the garden center, Brian. We have a unique pot color, a new logo,
okay.
a new tag, and we're very excited about the fact again that it's going to be a new brand, a reconfigured, reimagined that will stand out and really give the garden center a really competitive tool to sell plants that will be problem free.
Okay. Okay.
and I think one of the big distinguishing features of the brand, and which is really important for the IGC channel, is it gives them the means to differentiate themselves from their competition, the mass merchants, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, our feeling is by having a brand that is exclusive to the IGC channel is a huge, huge differentiating
Yeah.
factor for the
Yeah.
sake of local garden centers.
Okay. No, that's yeah. Nowadays, that's more important than ever, I think. Yeah. So that's great.
So you asked about the plant selection process, and
Yeah.
it's maybe a little bit different in how we came about with the list. Is really we tried to find we took the problems that the consumer has, like deer resistance or non-invasive things like that, and found the plant to fit the need instead of just having another plant.
Yeah.
So we that's how we got to have something for that needs to be deer resistant or less invasive or whatever that case may be.
Okay. Well, and as I was reading through the initial announcement about Worry Free, one thing that stood out to me is again your focus on bringing success both for the consumer and the grower, and especially you made a comment in that initial announcement, Tom, about beautiful and easy, and I think back to just from my own perspectives, I've been in various specialty crop markets for a while. Before I was in the greenhouse side, I was more on the outdoor fruit growing side. And you talk about a variety like Honeycrisp, for example. Consumers love Honeycrisp as an apple, but the growers would say it's a very much of a challenge to grow. It's susceptible to a lot of problems. But they were able to find a way to kind of bridge some of those gaps. And it sounds like you're trying to do the same thing to bring these varieties that are going to be beneficial both to the consumer and to the growers producing these plants.
Yes, yeah, we got to be able to produce. It's got to have both garden performance and production performance. So we have to look at all those aspects. But it really gets down to that that consumer, we need to make them successful, and that's part of one of our main objectives. If you got to get a plant, and it's hard to adapt, and it's hard to fiddle with, and you got to, people don't have the time to mess with that. They want to plant it and go to the beach. So you have to, and have a beautiful yard. So it's important to make them successful at whatever we have to do, both culturally and in genetics selecting genetics to
Sure.
meet those needs.
Okay.
I would
Um,
say, Brian, also that this list of plants and worry free, I'm very proud of in that the three of us, our nurseries with over 100 years of experience, have developed great networks with breeders from Michael
yeah,
Durr to uh, folks all over the world. And that's a fun part of working with these breeders who are just amazingly innovative to bring their great plants to the marketplace under worry
sure.
free.
And if I could, it's kind of like a connecting the dot process, as Tom said, the consumer rules, what they want, what their concerns are, realizing that, anticipating their needs, and then trying to connect with the breeders of the world at their offerings and help guide that a little bit. And through the supply chain channel, being able to grow it and then ultimately deliver what the consumer is looking for.
That's a great point, Ed, because I mean, you've got all these, various parts of the supply chain here. And, the breeder might not have that connection to the end consumer, and the grower, you're here in the middle. But being able to, work across, from, I don't want to say backwards and forwards, but from the grower backwards to the breeder, and then from the grower forward to the consumer, making sure everybody's goals are aligned with, trying to accomplish the exact same thing. So I think that's a really important component to this, I think. Um,
Absolutely.
you look at some of the other factors that worry-free plants is focused on. So when you've got climate resilience, you've got non-invasive varieties. How is that working into the varieties that you're looking at? Because I know, depending on regionality, there's some consumers that are focused on, cold hardiness or heat tolerance or drought tolerance. How does that play into everything?
Well, we look at all those aspects, drought tolerance. Everybody's dealt with the drought, so we keep looking what's the next drought tolerant plants for conserving water in certain parts of the country. It's really important. After the winter we had in the north the past year, hardiness becomes another factor to go back and look at, where some of the
Yeah,
stuff that's been introduced and it didn't quite cut the mustard. So we got to make sure that back to making a consumer uh, successful, and then the whole non-invasive issue, which is sort of the start of worry free with the barberry, is we're diligently going after non-invasive plant material for to stay on one step ahead of that and get that on the right side for
hmm,
protecting,
I, I,
supporting the
I
consumer and
would
protecting the environment.
yeah,
I would add a big one as well. Maybe it's my bias up here in the Northeast, Brian, but we need plants that deer won't devour, and it's
yeah.
probably the biggest detriment to a lot of gardeners here in this part of the world. And we believe Worry Free is going to really have an answer for that issue that really can discourage a lot of gardeners.
It's a lot of boxes to check, and there's no plant probably that can do it all. There is no such thing as a perfect plant, but our goal, along with the breeders and whatever, is to bring the market plants that get closer and closer to that goal.
Yeah. Well, and it's, I mean, as you guys know from just, Alan Armitage writing his column for us for many years, that's one thing he talks about so often is, you know, deer resistance, but then also just solutions based gardening. That sounds like this is a very focused approach on that, deer being such a critical issue for so many, consumers that, that whatever you can do to focus on that is great. Um, Want to kind of find out just kind of what's next for worry-free plants. I know you've got Cultivate coming up here, just less than a month by the time this episode comes out. Are you guys looking at Cultivate to, do some branding communication on worry-free plants and anything else beyond that you guys are looking at?
We'll be doing like a debut of the reimagined, as we're calling it, worry free brand, the expanded collection of plants and so forth at
Okay.
Cultivate. Each of our booths will be showcasing the worry free aspect of what we're doing.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll be out there beating the drum in that regard. So for sure.
Okay.
And we'll have a lot of new plants. We've expanded the line, particularly on the herbaceous hardy perennial side. Brian
Okay.
working with a bunch of genetic companies, so we're excited to add that as is really the newest addition to the worry-free lineup.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Beyond that, we're always going to be looking for, more, well, new plants, better plants. And, the goal remains basically, have less worry and more enjoyment for the consumer in terms of
Sure.
gardening.
Absolutely. Just kind of taking a step back a little bit here. So as you look ahead to the future, and I'll run through each of you guys for this question. What makes you the most excited about the future of this industry that you're in? And it could be, the plants we've talked about, but anything else that comes to mind that you look ahead to the future of this, this whole floriculture industry, what brings you the most excitement? Ed, I'll start with you on that question.
Ooh, boy. Well, as business people, you have to deal with challenges, and that can be frustrating, but at the same time, it can be rewarding. And just as much as that challenge is, difficult perhaps at times, it represents an opportunity. So I think the thrill for us, particularly on my end, and I'm sure similar, with Mark and Tom, being able to take the challenges of the day. In this case, we're talking about consumer concerns, regulatory concerns, and so forth, and to be able to take that, turn it into an opportunity, and come forward with solutions that help everybody.
Okay. Okay. Mark, how about you? What excites you the most about the industry?
Well, I love the industry, first of all, and I did not grow up in it, but it's been my entire career and adult life. And I feel very grateful for being part of this industry. And it's a growing industry, and gardening is more relevant today than I think it's ever been. And that excites me about our future. And great plants are needed, wanted, and desired by the American public, and I'm excited to work with Tom and Ed and to bring more plants to those people.
Awesome. Awesome. Tom, what about you?
Yeah, a lot of the same things for making that consumer successful is number one. If we don't keep that, we had a large influx of gardeners after COVID, and we need to keep that momentum up and find ways to keep them engaged in working in the yards and putting plants in the ground. And I think the other part that's enjoyable is really looking at the future and taking a proactive approach to solve problems, and staying on the forefront of it
Yeah.
instead of waiting for something to happen. I think all three of us have the same mindset: is let's solve the problem before it gets here. What proactive approach can we take to solving problems and be on the front side?
Sure. And I know that's so challenging to do when you're trying to keep up on the day to day. Everybody's schedules get so busy, but if you can look ahead and identify what are the problems coming up and how can we work ahead to, as you said, Tom, be proactive in solving those issues, I think is important. Any other closing thoughts about worry-free plants or just anything else in general about where things are headed for you guys?
Well, just real quick, kind of dovetailing to the prior question you had, Brian.
Yeah.
In addition to great plants, opportunity, et cetera, there's great people. Our industry is full of great people, and it's a real privilege to work along with Tom and Mark and others in the greater Synergy group. To share best practices, share thinking, and so forth. But even beyond that, other growers that might be licensees of us going forward, or other collaborating with us in other ways. And then our customers, our IGC customers, in many ways, we all consider them as partners to our business, as much friends as they are customers. So the people aspect is a big thing as well.
Well, and Ed, I'll ask one last question there because you talked about grower licensees. If a grower wants to learn more, become involved, what do they have to do?
Well, they can reach out to us, and somehow we could provide some contact information. But our executive director is Valerie Henshaw, and she would probably be the one to reach to. We could probably somehow or another give you an email address, or something or other, or reach out to us individually, and we can direct accordingly.
Yeah.
Okay. And if those listening to this, they can always reach out to our team at Greenhouse Grower as well, and we can point you in the right direction. So, um, awesome. Well, this is another exciting thing happening in the industry. So, but again, I appreciate you guys taking the time today to talk about this. Thank you for joining us. You can learn more about this and other topics at greenhousegrower.com, and you can also follow Greenhouse Grower on LinkedIn. Please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. And please leave us a rating or review, as it helps other listeners find the show. The Greenhouse Grower to Grower podcast is produced by the team at Meister Media Worldwide. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower.